Does it ever make sense to prioritize Mega Backdoor Roth, if available, after the 401k match if you're behind in your after-tax bucket? I have the ability for a Roth 401k, but prefer the flexibility. I want to pursue FIRE. What would you say to Alex?
Oh, see, you just gave a lot of context
all right,
there.
Alec, so we got to, all right, you asked a
Do you
big
need some more
question.
information?
we got to unwind it a little bit. So let me explain what Mega Backdoor Roth is really quickly. When you contribute to a 401k, most people think there are only two ways to contribute. You can do pre-tax contributions or you can do Roth contributions. There actually is a third way to contribute to a 401k called after-tax contributions, which are available to some plans. You don't get a tax deduction. You put the money in the after-tax bucket, and then that money grows tax deferred. And when you go to pull it out, you pay taxes on the earnings. You don't pay tax on the contribution you put in. That's the after-tax bucket. Well, some plans will allow you to convert those after-tax dollars to Roth. Well, because they're after-tax, it's a completely tax-free conversion. You can either do it in plan and it sits in the Roth bucket in your 401k, or you can do a conversion and roll it out to a Roth IRA. So it's a way to do some mega backdoor Roth. It's super, super exciting. If you think about like Section 415 limits being at like $70,000 a year, a lot of folks can do $25,000, $30,000, $35,000 in this mega backdoor. So that's what the mega backdoor is. Now, Alex said, is it ever okay to do the mega backdoor after the employer match? And I feel like what we just did, Brian, is we skipped from the very beginning of the financial reward of our operations all the way to the very end. Can you hold the thing up for me?
Sorry, I'm 5 hours.
So employer match is a step 2, Brian. That's like a free money thing. I don't think in any circumstance ever, mega backdoor, he asked about after-tax brokerage, it does not come in after step 2. It comes in much later in the food.
It's probably more of a step 7.
It's like
it's 6 and 7.
That's right. It's a much later thing. So the question is, should I ever do it right after employer match? I would argue there are other things that you ought to be doing after employer match. Now, once you kind of get through step 5, Roth IRAs and HSAs, and then you get to step 6, maxing out your employer-sponsored retirement plan, and then you get to step 7. Now, how does Alec decide, okay, should I do mega backdoor? Do I prioritize that, or do I prioritize after-tax? Because he said, hey, I feel like I'm behind in the after-tax. I feel like I'm behind in the taxable
He gave us
brokerage
both.
account.
He pulled this thing tight from both sides in the fact that if you're behind, but then you're also part of the FIRE movement, you're going to have to hyper-focus. Did he say he was behind, or are we making that part up?
He said,
He didn't say that
because the question is dropped off the screen.
He said, if you're behind in the after-tax bucket.
So I guess he is behind in the
after-tax bucket. That makes more sense.
Specifically, yeah.
Okay, because after-tax bucket, the reason we like for anybody who's part of the FIRE movement or FINE movement, the next endeavor, is that you're probably going to need some type of bridge account that replaces some of that income that you're no longer getting with your earned income. And the easiest bucket out of the 3 buckets, when we're talking about tax-deferred, tax-free, or after-tax, is that after-tax bucket. So I can understand why somebody feels like, hey, I've got all these. And this, by the way, this is why this is a step 7 element, is because it's all these earlier ones are either to keep your life out of the financial ditch, avoid high interest debt, get the free money. When you get to step 6 and then 7, a lot of this was tax advantage. It was driven by saving money on taxes so you could build for the future. When you get to step 7, now you're saying, how do I need this money? If I'm leaving the workforce early, I need to probably account for that. Mm-hmm. So I think, Alec, what I think about in your situation is, if you know you're leaving the workforce early, you've got to start modeling what does that actually look like so you can begin with the end in mind. And that's why if you go to learn.moneyguy.com, we have the Know Your Number. Mm-hmm. You can actually, and what's cool about the Know Your Number course is you can put in the different accounts, the different structures, and you can see how much you're going to need to save and build for. You can change inflation rates. You can change investment return rates. Play around with it, and then you can quickly decide. You can squeeze the balloon on different accounts, because maybe it's a combination of both. Mm-hmm. Because I love where your mind's at, because you're going to love Roth money over the long term, because that tax-free growth opportunity is priceless. There's a reason the government is restricting how much you can put into these accounts. So you'll definitely want to leverage and take advantage of that opportunity. But you still need that bridge account to get you to the normal retirement distribution ages, whether it's 55 for 401ks or 59 and a half. By the way, 55 for 401ks is only if you depart while you're working for that company. So you might be stuck at the 59.5 completely unless you annuitize it or do some other, planning structure. But you got to, I love where your mind's at, but you've got to do, there's some work, homework, and these variables, like I said, they get there. It's like a fingerprint. It's going to be different for every person. I look at your structure, I look at your goals, I look at your desires, but hopefully I gave you enough of the elements so that you can start figuring out how to piece this together yourself.
I'm just going to throw one other thing on there because we have some like wicked smart listeners and fans out there in the audience. And you say, oh, well, you could do Mega Backdoor, and there's still a mechanism through which you can access those dollars prematurely. We did a great show, and I'm going to look, writing team, I'm looking at you guys because I don't remember the name of it. We did a great show about like ways, like unconventional ways to retire early. That was not the name of it. If you search that on Google, you will not find it. 3 ways to retire early.
That's
and we
a much better title.
We walk through some of these unique strategies if you are part of the FIRE movement that you might want to consider. So that's a really quick little YouTube or Google search. That might also help you as you try to define, okay, what makes the most sense for me. And the last thing I'm going to throw in here, Alec, this is a great example of one of those times where you're navigating into some more complex waters. Okay, the decisions I'm making today will likely have long-term impacts on how I retire and what FIRE looks like and when I leave the workforce and how I'm going to access those dollars. This is a prime example of when it might make sense to realistically take the relationship to the next level. You've only likely done this once. If you work with an advisor who's counseled folks in this same stage of life, there's a really good chance they've done this tens, if not hundreds of times. So it might be great to get a second set of eyes, a second opinion. So we would love for you to consider taking the relationship to the next level if you're at the stage where that might make sense for you.